Magic dentro, Rafa. Gol! Ebram! Gol! È l'azione più bella del mondo! È l'azione più bella!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by all-reliable Anthony Torgrud.
It's me, sleepy old man. Every time we start a podcast now, I think about that episode where Madison said, like, yeah, and then it started or something real quick. I don't know what.
Yeah, we've had a few of those. I don't know what it is. So we record using StreamYard for those who haven't already guessed by the layout. And for some reason, it does like a little 1 second before the intro video kicks in. And I mean, sometimes stuff gets said, I think, just before we hit record. But yeah, we've learned our lesson on that front. Got a couple of games to talk about. We've got another win to recap, our fourth in 5 games. What's happened to us? And we've got a game to preview against Bologna that is a bit of a dress rehearsal, shall we say, for the final that comes next week. But before we dive into the episode, I wanted to say thank you, as always, to our Substack founding members, Medicare, Ken, Roberto Racinos, Marco Villela, Tarek, JT Physio, Mike Schulz, Heavenly 13, Derek Favretto, Merlin Finker, Nasser, Carlo Fassi, Rajat Roles, Escobar, Luke Villano, Mats, MJ Kemin, Joey Gawler, Moritz Pullman, Tito Mac, and Des Windsor McGlynn. One breath, get in. Yeah, thank you, everybody, for supporting what we do over on the Substack. As I've said most weeks now, it has not been the easiest season. It would be fair to say that fan interest has been at a low point during parts of 2025. And we honestly just appreciate the support and the engagement over there on the Substack. For those who don't know, that's sort of our premium content platform. And we don't mean premium as in OnlyFans, thankfully.
If you guys find it.
Yeah, if we get enough people involved. What you can find over there, and as a reminder, you can try a week for free to see if you like what you see. The most recent pub chat that Lorenzo and Stefano published on Sunday, titled Trophy or Tragedy, Milan's Confusing Season, of course, as the title suggests, a bit of a debate about whether we could consider 2024-25 a success if we got a double. Our most recent bonus podcast that we put out late last week was titled Wasted Potential, and it was about whether this team have underperformed in the league in particular, given that we're in 9th place and there's no signs of us rising anytime soon. How this team's underperformed based on the quality of the squad compared to previous seasons, in particular in the late 2010s when we had good teams on paper but seemed to be anchored into the Europa League places or sometimes even lower than that. Isaac's most recent bonus article, he has gone through the data, various statistics, metrics to do with on-field stuff, but other things like net spend and how that might relate to us to pick out the one man that he believes should be Milan's head coach for next season. And I'm not going to tell you who it is. So go find out if you want an analysis on why it should be this particular man. And we also had an early access article go out last week about Sergio Conceição's future and why it doesn't even depend on the club whether he stays or not. So yeah, go check that out.
One question about this Isaac article.
Yeah.
Will I be upset when I get to the end of it?
I don't know whether to just tell you who it is. Do you think you could guess? If you guess right with one guess, then I'll say, yeah.
Allegri.
It's not Allegri, no.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay.
It is not Allegri. They are Italian, I'll give you that much.
Yeah, it's going to be fucking Deservi or some shit, isn't it?
It's not. He put together a pretty compelling
then I'm fine
argument.
with whatever.
All right, yeah. I think you'll like it. I think you'll like the choice. I'll just tell you now, it's Sarri.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not against it. I was literally who's my 5th choice. I was gonna say either Italiano or Conte after that, but
yeah,
Sarri's good.
Yeah, I'm still on Italiano if we can do some madness there. But anyway, we've got a current team that's doing quite well, so why change things?
We did. We benched Leao.
Yeah. That's where to start with this game. Genoa. A very, very rainy Monday night at the Marassi. It feels like whenever we play Genoa, the weather conditions are always dramatic one way or another.
Yeah.
And this was no different. It was a deluge of rain. The pitch held up fairly well in the end, but yeah, the players were soaked. See Joao Felix come off the bench and he was already absolutely soaking wet. It was
mad.
Awful.
Being on that bench, just getting drenched.
There were no fans in the first 10 rows because they'd all had to move back. It was quite funny to see. And the game for the first, 60 odd minutes kind of kind of went that way. Teams
Yeah.
found it difficult. But yeah, the starting lineup, bit of a shock for this one because everything that we'd heard in the build-up was going to be about an unchanged team for the fourth time in 5 games. Luka Jovic coming back in for Tammy Abraham, having recovered from lower back pain. That ended up happening. But then, Leao benched for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Interesting.
I don't understand why. I mean, look, he had to come on pretty quickly anyways because Fofana got hurt, but just it's odd. I don't mind Loftus-Cheek getting a start. It's been a while, and I think the 2 substitute performances he's had in the, whatever run of games it's been, he's been decent. So I get rewarding him, and I get actually trying to rest Rafa. I just think that when my head says, okay, we need to rest Rafa, Loftus-Cheek is not the replacement that comes to mind.
No.
You think move Feely and then bring on Chukwueze or, something along those lines, or even start a second striker up top instead. But having Loftus-Cheek play as a winger was an odd decision, and I don't know if that's necessarily what he did. It seemed like at times he definitely was a right wing, which was strange. But when they made that lineup announcement, it looked more like a 3-5-2.
Yeah,
would have been okay, but then why is Pewley playing striker? That's definitely not his specialty either. So
no.
Yeah, the whole thing was just kind of odd, but obviously it didn't last long. So
no, it didn't, and for the wrong reasons. But thankfully, it sounds like Fofana is fine. He'd played through some pain in the bottom of his foot. He had it in training and then said he was fine to start and has had to come off, but there's no cause for concern. So that's good news, just precautionary as we hoped it would be. I was worried when you see him like sat on the ground shaking his head. I'm thinking, oh, fuck, his groin's gone here or something. And he's definitely going to be out of the final. It's not as disastrous as like Reinders or Leao going down injured or one of the back 3 even. However, Fofana's been better with this new system, so I was a little bit like, this is the risk that you're running in these meaningless league games. That is the gauntlet that you're dancing with it, because if one of these guys goes down, the game's only in 8 days. So, we'd be up shit creek. But yeah, I agree. I thought it was strange, but I think you could kind of tell, as you pointed out in our chat about how they put the official lineup out. You can kind of tell what they're going for with the formation sometimes. And La Gazzetta this morning described it as a lopsided 3-5-2, and I tend to kind of agree with that. I'd say it was more of a 3-5-1-1 with Pulisic just kind of shuttling side to side behind the striker Jovic, who dropped in deep quite a bit again as well. So I think, dare I say, it was probably a forced solution because Conceição revealed before the game that Sotil is not 100%. Obviously, he missed out with some kind of muscle problem. And then in terms of potentially playing another striker, Jovic has just come back, yes. But we know Tammy, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to click for him from the start. And Gimenez has come back from a bit of an absence. So I think he maybe didn't want to play 2 up front and put all our eggs in that basket, maybe not being able to change the game. And then, you could maybe play Chukwueze on the right and move Pulisic to the left. As it turned out, Pulisic was operating more on the left, but I think he just went for a bit more solidity in the middle, and just to see if RLC can be a useful resource, even in terms of game management. Say he doesn't start that final, but say we get into a good position, can he trust him to come on and we play a 3-5-2 or we shore up the midfield in some way? So I think that's what he was going for, but he did end up in some like right attacking midfield positions. It wasn't a great first half from us, to be honest. And we have Mike Maignan to thank for going in level at the break. What a fucking save.
Yeah. Denied Christian Pulisic a goal,
Yeah.
Not the type you wanted. So, good job. But yeah, that was an incredible save. Look, obviously it wasn't an intentional shot. I'm just making a joke. He went to block it, and it just happened to be directly towards goal. And yeah, look at that. I mean, it's all but in, right? Like there's a millisecond later, that's a goal. Incredible. And that's not even the craziest part about it, because less than 2 seconds later, he's up and making a double save with his foot in the same direction too. So you see where he's at. He's obviously still going to ground. He gets that save, and then immediately bounces up and then sticks a foot out to save it the same direction. Like it's very impressive. And that is the Maignan that we've all known and have been waiting to see again. That's a little late, but Scudetto level Maignan right there. Like that was one of the best saves in a long time.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I said on Twitter, and I stand by it, that is a contender for the best save I've ever seen. And there's a multitude of reasons why. First of all, because he got a clear sight line at the actual ball, but it's a crowded box, so you never really can commit your body weight to one side. You're always waiting for it to potentially take a deflection, and of course, Pulisic nearly did put it in his own net. If you look at the moment, and for those who are listening, I apologise, but I've got the save up on screen here. If you look at the moment where he actually makes contact hand to ball, not only is the ball sort of jammed between the line and his hand, which for me, I think, that must be painful. You get one on the end of the finger or whatever. Don't care. He's straight at it. But the ball's behind him. It's not. It's about a yard behind him, nearly. So, yeah.
Another interesting thing is you see his right foot is already on the ground.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, that means he didn't dive for it. He just went down somehow. Like my brain can't wrap the head around the physics of how he pulls that off.
And you look at the second bit of the screenshot there. You're thinking, all right, he gets a fingertip to it based on the first screenshot, but it probably still goes in the inside side netting. Like, there's no way he can turn that away with enough strength behind his hand, and he does. It's just mental.
Mm-hmm.
With Maignan, I've sort of accepted, right, that the way his season has gone, especially when he had those struggles for form earlier in this calendar year, there's sort of like a region when it comes to making saves. You've got your really easy ones, and then you've got the more challenging ones in the middle. And then you've got your elite, these should not be saved ones at the end. He was letting in a lot of the challenging ones, but he always maintained and still maintains that ability to make those world-class, how the hell have you done that saves, which makes the other ones all the more frustrating when he's getting beaten at the near post easily and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When you see saves like this, you think, this guy can't be beat ever, So then it makes, like you said, the challenging ones, A, look less challenging because you're used to this, but B, then you're like, you just saved that. How'd you not save this? Like the goal that we do concede is not an easy shot to save, but the fact that he's rooted to his spot and you just saw this, you go, well, how the hell did you not even go for it? No, even though logically you know that you're not saving that shot, right? Like that was a first time volley from deep. It was a perfect strike. But because you just saw this, you go, you could have got it. You could have got there.
Yeah, could have at least tried, mate.
Yeah.
If you didn't die for that first one, then you wouldn't have pulled off potentially the save of the season, which I genuinely think it is. I think we'll struggle to see. Because I always think the ones down on the ground are a lot harder than the ones up high, Because as I said, he gets to that, but he could so easily just tip it into the back of the net. But brilliant save. And he made one before that as well on Brooke Norton-Cuffy. I did know he was at Genoa, but it was like a surprise reminder that he's there because I saw him play for Millwall twice last season, once against Huddersfield and once in another game. And just to see him starting in Serie A is a bit mad. But actually, he looked like one of their better players playing on the right side. And he danced between Teo and Pavlovic and then hit that low shot that was just going into the bottom corner. Maignan gets down to it and palms it away. Another great save. And then at the other end, Genoa's goalkeeper makes a good save. It must be said to deny. I say good save. It was more like a good rush off the line to cut down the angle for Pulisic when Leao puts him through on goal. I think I've watched that back now. I think it's I don't think it's quite a sitter because of how quickly the angle gets narrowed down for him. But I think if he has it another 9 times, he probably scores most of the 10. And I don't think that the square ball was on, even though the guy next to him, I don't know if it was Jovic, was stood shouting, you should have squared it.
Yeah, I think it was Reinders or something, but still.
Maybe, yeah.
I agree with you. I got called biased in the chat for saying that wasn't the easiest shot, but, it is what it is. It just comes with the territory. But, yeah, when you look at it, their keeper gets off the line. Leali is the keeper's name?
Leali, yeah.
Yeah, he gets off the line very quick. He reads the play perfectly, which is, A, high-level goalkeeping, but, B, he gets there, closes it down. It eliminates a lot of your options. You have try to stop the ball and cut on either in or outside to get around him, try to chip it, which is hard when you're in a sprint like that, or you shoot it right at him and hope it goes underneath or through, That's why, I don't even know if you make that the other 9 times out of 10 if you take that exact same shot.
Yeah.
I think 50% 60% maybe. Yeah, that's a tough shot, in my opinion. And I'd say the same if it was Leao, if it was Reinders, if it was Santi, anyone. I don't care. But
Yeah, it's another one of those ones where it's so easy to say what we as non-professional footballers would have done
yeah,
when
exactly.
they show a slow-mo replay, and it's like, oh, he's got all the time in the world to round him or to slot it under him. But when he's receiving the pass back to goal, turning, next thing he's through, keeper's right in his face
Mhm.
near enough.
With
It's
2
hard.
defenders on you,
It's
by the
hard.
way. One in front, one behind.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that you almost need to scuff. You need to just
Yeah.
like toe stab it and it goes through the keeper's legs or something. But yeah, anyway,
And it was
it was a
pouring
big
rain, you know.
yeah, it was
Raining
raining
his eyes.
outside. We have to remember it was raining. That got a bit of airtime yesterday as well. Then second half, the game kind of springs into life. They take the lead. You kind of mentioned it before. The Vitinha volley, of course, his first goal of the entire season, which is typical of Milan. But you wouldn't be
Seconds
able to.
after I put in the chat as well, oh, Vitinha hasn't scored this season, we're cooked.
Yeah,
Immediately a goal.
yeah. You wouldn't have been able to guess that was his first goal, though.
No.
It was a bloody good volley.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, it was a sweet connection. You see those so often. You know, even a striker would just blaze that wide or shank it, whatever. I think mostly thinking about our strikers, to be honest. But he took that one really well. Maignan rooted to his spot. I agree. Like you'd like to see the keeper dive for that. You never know what might happen, but I don't think he's getting anywhere near that. He's placed it perfectly in the corner. And there's one angle that they showed from behind him as he hits it, and it's like, wow, that's a very sweet connection. Again, the 9 times out of 10 thing. I don't think he does that another 9 times if you give him that same chance. But yeah, we were in deep shit at this point because we weren't really creating an awful lot. You know, there was like a Teo free kick from 25 yards that he decided to shoot, and it was like he had the right idea, I think, with that because the pitch was so wet that he wanted to just skid it in and hope that the keeper couldn't get behind it. But Leao,
and it did get to the keeper, and he did spill it, you know. So someone almost picked it up in the rebound, I believe.
Yeah, he sort of gathered it at the second attempt. It was a little bit messy, but
he
had the right idea with that. That's one. That's what I will say. And then with just over 20 minutes left, Conceição just rolled the dice, I guess, and threw on Joao Felix and Santi Gimenez for Alex Gimenez and Jovic. And wow, proved to be decisive changes.
Well.
I mean, talk about impact subs. The 3 players who came on to change the game in attack combined for the equalising goal. You've got Joao Felix dropping into the space. Hey, look, we've slated him, but he was fucking good last night.
Yes, he was.
He dropped into this is what we've been wanting this entire time. Be a game breaker. Be someone to come on and pick the lot. He drops into space, plays a lovely ball over to Santi, and there was some good stuff after the game, quotes from him and quotes from Conceição about how he actually saw the vision for that substitution of getting the ball to Joao Felix and Santi making runs in behind. Just run into space in behind and stretch them because we're not doing enough as it stands. Literally, the first chance to get to do that, pings the ball over the top. Gimenez holds his run well, stays on side, right side of the box, hammers in a cross to sort of, I don't think he was aiming it at anyone. I think he just wanted to put it in a dangerous area. Lands near the penalty spot.
Just perfect striker instinct, you know. That's like,
where would he want it?
Yeah, you go, I know where the ball needs to be to score a goal. And he puts it right on the penalty spot without even looking, just says, I know where I'm going to put it. Hopefully it gets there. And it gets there. And of course, it's Rafa, who better to receive. And then, you know, of course, it makes a deflection, which would have been a penalty if it didn't go in right off the guy's hand. So,
yeah,
good goal. Santi assist, Joao Felix soccer assist. And then, 15, maybe soccer assist, Jesus Christ. Sorry, hockey assist. Thank you for catching that. I didn't.
No, I know what you meant.
Look, we just need to start recording those. We need to make it our thing, okay? We're reclaiming it. We're taking it back. And then less than a minute later, or maybe just a minute later, almost the exact same thing in reverse. It was Rafa going down, and he was at almost the same spot, but the opposite side of the box as Santi. Puts the ball exactly in the same spot, and it's coming right to Joao Felix, who's got his foot ready. He's about to take the shot, and someone just steps in from Genoa to block it, and it's a perfect toe poke into the corner. It does take another deflection, so they got like double screwed again, but
yeah,
you know, you take those. So Rafa does not get the assist officially, but you know, it was all him. And it was really funny because you saw Joao Felix kind of celebrate a little bit, and then when Reinders was like, "You scored," he's like, "No, I didn't touch it,"
Yeah, I
So
should
like
have claimed it.
all the cockiness and all the selfishness that I've complained about Joao Felix, I didn't see yesterday. I saw a team player, and that was when we got the best out of him. Was like you said, balls in over the top, making those assists, celebrating an own goal, because like instead of being mad that he was the one who scored it, which we've seen with some superstars. I won't name anyone, Cristiano Ronaldo, but Joao Felix didn't do that, and it was nice to see. It was nice to see a team player. If he could perform like that with that attitude the rest of the season, be it 4 games, I would say let's have a second look.
Too little, too late, innit?
I think it is.
Kind of where we Conceição, like you got the winning formula, all right. It's just about 12 games too late for us to do anything with it, which is a shame. But
technically, we can still get 4th.
Well, we can, yeah. I saw someone tweet all the combinations of things that need to happen, and it got me interested. And then I realized that like
none of those
a few of the teams above us can't get another point or whatever. Yeah, it's I mean, agent Friendrup is all I'll say. If the rumors are true about us pursuing him ahead of the summer, first of all, I'd be happy because I really like him. But yeah, he got the touch on that, and the own goal goes down as him. But yeah, good movement from Joao Felix. Again, everything, when we made those changes, everything just seemed a lot more dynamic, and we started finally putting balls in dangerous areas, and that's what yielded both of the goals. Genoa have been really good. As we pointed out in the preview, Genoa have been really good defensively under Patrick Vieira. They've really improved. They've kind of surged up the table from where they were bottom at one point this season, and they've become quite a hard team to play against. And we saw that they were rough. To say that they're 13th and had very little to play for, you wouldn't have thought so. They really went into every challenge, and they gave us a proper physical contest, which I think Vieira will always demand from his teams. And I think it'd be interesting to see his rise as a coach as well, because I like what I see from his teams. I always have done. But yeah, we just changed things and tried to pick the lock a different way, and it worked. It wasn't a show-stopping performance by any means, even with the late comeback. It wasn't a classic, just like the Venezia game wasn't, but it was an important win nonetheless. And Conceição was keen to point out after the game as well that the comeback came with a 4-2-3-1. So it's not necessarily that the 3-man defense is decisive. Sometimes we can change back to our old shape and do things how we used to. And that is correct, I suppose, when you think about it, because Pulisic didn't come off until 10 minutes to go when Walker and Musa came on in that double sub, and I started fearing the worst. But yeah, you had Pulisic, Joao Felix, Leao behind Santi. So it was.
You want to point out one
comeback under him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do want to point out some statistics here. So Morata is still our most prolific striker this season, which is awful. He's on 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 total GA in 1,671 minutes. But when you look at Santi, he's only 1 goal involvement behind. He's now at 4 goals, 3 assists, so 7 in only 822 minutes. So, I mean, look, for all the hate he's received because he fell out of favor with Conceição so fast, he's already up there as our best striker of the season in half the time. And you look at the games he's played, it's not like he's just got half the games. He's getting 20 minutes, 7 minutes, 14 minutes, 23 minutes, 30 minutes. He's only played a full 91 time. And, he didn't score in that game. And that's what kind of sent him down this spiral, I guess. But he's not an impact sub. I don't think he should be a guy coming in with 20 minutes to go and hoping for a goal or assist, even though he's done it the last 2 games. But like this is the guy that we need to play more. I don't care that Jovic seemed to be in hot form when he first came in. The idea is that he's not going to be here next season. Same with Tammy. Same with Morata. Santi is our only striker. He has the numbers to back up the fact that he's the best of the 4, and we're not utilizing him. And I think that's something that Conceição deserves a lot of, I don't know, bad
question,
finger wagging. Yeah, like you got to really point that out and say, dude, what are you doing? This is the most expensive striker Milan's ever signed. He was a 40 million euro player. We need to be using him, and he's got first minute goals in 2 games or some shit like that. Like, and then last minute goals in the other ones. He's when he's there, he's on it. He had a few games where he was missing, and look, make no mistake, he's not a build-up player. You know, he struggles when he's got to run the length of the pitch or drop deep. That's not his forte, but he is a striker. Get him in the box, get him some deliveries, he's gonna find the back of the net. That's where he excels always. So just wanted to point that out.
I like that. That was an impassioned plea.
Yeah, I like the guy.
I think the thing about his goal drought has been overdone, because obviously the media were like 2 months without scoring, Milan's 35 million man, whatever. I get it, they're always going to go over the top, but a big part of that was well, not a big part, but part of that was spent injured, and then I think we wanted to protect him a bit when he came back, which is why he played fragments of games off the bench. I honestly think that Gimenez, Jovic, and Abraham, I don't think any of the three are 100%, to be honest. And I think that's why we're seeing them sort of rotate around a little bit. We know Abraham isn't, because he missed a game yesterday, and I think he's been trying to play through something, to be honest. You saw him in that, was it the Inter game in the first leg or the second?
Yeah.
He got clattered in one of them, didn't he? And he didn't look very good. And we know Gimenez has had his problem. We know Jovic struggles with back pain. And it felt like we kind of rushed him back for this a little bit. Like it was a really good game to start Gimenez, or even, dare I say, Kamada, who can't play for the Futuro because he hasn't played enough games.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we can't get anywhere in the league. Let's be brutally honest with it. Is this not about getting minutes for the players for the future? So yeah, I think there's some question marks there. But came on, did the job, we won. You know, we can't overanalyze this while we're saying that it doesn't really matter as a game. But I felt positive after the full-time whistle, because all I want to see is belief building in the team ahead of the cup final. Like, if we'd have lost that, I'd have felt pretty bad, because any game that we lose, in fact, there's only one now between the final, it shows something to be exploited. It shows a blueprint about how to get at us in the final. And yeah, we got the job done. I wanted to show a picture, but I can't fucking find it. But last night after the game, I don't know if you saw on the field, I've got it. There was a little huddle, and Conceição led it, apparently. And he got asked afterwards what he said to them. And he said, "I'm not going to lie to you. I just told them the players that didn't play today are in for training tomorrow. Everyone else has a day off." But it lasted longer than that. So what he actually said, I don't know. But just feels like there's a little bit of something to latch onto ahead of that final next week. You know, 4 wins in 5. We seem to have found a bit more solidity. Only 2 goals conceded in those 5. We've scored 11, and yeah, that's all you can ask, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're in good shape. I think we are finding our footing. Look, I said it from the moment Conceição arrived. He was set up for failure. It was too late for him to make an impact, and we're seeing it. He's figuring it out the last month of the season. That's not enough. Had it have happened in July that he came in, who knows? Maybe we'd be talking about a much different season. But
yeah,
it is what it is at this point, so we can't dwell on that. I think we're set up for a good cup final, and it'll be interesting to see how the I guess the preview game goes without Leao, which I think plays more into our favor than anything. I think they're going to base their cup final game plan on how we perform in this game, and the wild card is Leao, which is something that we won't have in this game, so they won't know how to react to it. Real quick, do we want to do tops and flops?
Yeah, we should do, yeah. I just wanted to mention as well, Leao got the yellow card for a pretty cynical foul, and Costa Curta called it out after the game and said that was deliberate to get yourself ahead of the final. And yeah, maybe it was. Thankfully, yeah,
which could be why he wasn't going to play, you know?
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, I think Conceição had already made that decision to rest him, right? And that's why he wasn't in the starting lineup. But then it's like, you've got to throw him on 30 minutes. What can Leao do to guarantee that he gets rest the next game? Well, there you go. You just chop down your man very cynically on the break. And Thorsby should have had a red card. He killed... Yeah, he killed Joao Felix with the challenge late on while he was on a yellow card and didn't get a second yellow. There were a couple of half penalty shouts, but I don't think they need to be dived into too much. It's a win. Top for me, I don't know, you're going to go Mike? I think one of us has to go Maignan, one of us has to go Leao. So I'll go Maignan because I've just picked up his save and said it was save of the year.
Yeah, then I'll go Leao. Goal and assist, hard to argue against. But actually, the Mike argument is a very strong argument against. So
Yeah, it could, I mean, the papers have pretty much all given Maignan man of the match. Even though Leao had that contribution off the bench,
Leao
I think
also
it's
got
maybe
the award.
he did the little the little Panini POTM.
Yeah.
It's only his second of the season, which is low for him.
All 8 of his goals have come away from San Siro this year as well.
They have, yeah. He hasn't scored at home this season in the league. Good job the cup finals not played at San Siro then. Flop of the match. They were quick. I'll say Pulisic.
I'm gonna go with Fofana. We came in with the
Getting
game
injured.
plan, and you couldn't even make it 30 minutes. I know it's not his fault he got injured, but also maybe it is.
Well, if you tried to play through pain, that's silly at this stage in the season. Just sit out.
Yeah,
Sit
I
out.
think it was more like, I felt something, and let's not risk it. We got a cup final coming, which is fine, but it was just like, okay, look, we're resting Leao for a reason. Let's all just be calm, be civil, and this game was anything but.
Yeah. I think we'll come on to it in a second, but I think that there'll be big changes for that game on Friday night. Another shout for Pavlovic, because I think he was suspect on the Norton Cuffy chance of the save and also the goal. Him and Teo just stood like statues watching Vitinha in yards of space. So defensively, it wasn't as airtight on that left side. Let's move on. Bologna. So yeah, this is it. This is like the dry run before the real thing next week. The thing is that this game means a lot to them, and it doesn't really mean anything to us. And I think that kind of plays into our favour. We don't want to show our hand too early, as you kind of alluded to with the Leao thing. So I think big changes are coming here. But Bologna, with the draw against Juventus and with Roma winning, have slipped to 7th in the table now, but they're still only 1 point from 4th. So they are right in the top 4 hunt still. They've got us, obviously, which they'll see as a challenging game. Then they've got a massive game against Fiorentina on Sunday after
Oh no,
the
I think I
last
lost.
game of the season.
Okay, you're back. You cut out for a second.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good now.
It's saying I've got a bad connection, but hopefully
Okay.
it pops back here. They've got us, and then they've got
Fiorentina
away on Sunday, and then they've got Genoa at home, last game of the season. So they'll
Yeah,
they'll probably
as
back
crazy
themselves.
as it is, like, look, we're not getting 4th, but if you look at everyone from 4th down to 8th, they all play each other.
Yeah,
there's a weird chance, but it's not going to happen, because I think you're right. We're not going to prioritize this game. If anything, we might even appear weaker than we are, because what benefit of finishing 8th versus winning a trophy? Yes, you finish 8th next season, then you don't have to do the first round of the Coppa Italia. You come in around 16, but I don't think we really care about that. That's just one extra game against probably a Series C side, and then we just go through. Yeah, doesn't matter. So I think we kind of roll over a little bit on this one and just figure out how they're going to play, and then we do our thing.
Yeah. Let's have a little look at them. I mean, they have an obligation really to treat this seriously for the stuff just mentioned. To what extent would you rotate if you're Conceição? I mean, I don't think you rotate goalkeeper. You want to keep Maignan sharp, but I think you can make a couple of changes to the back three. I think Joao can come in, and probably Kyle Walker to play right centre back, maybe. Then you give Tomori a bit of rest, and you maybe keep Pavlovic in there, or you keep Gabbia in there. I know I'm always against like changing the defense when it's working and stuff like that. I still stand by that, but I just think you run a serious risk if one of the big players goes down.
I think maybe. So you're not going to start. Well, maybe you do start Joao Felix this game, because he's not going to start the cup final, right? And maybe you start Kyle Walker, get him back in the lineup. I do think Chow's got to come in for someone. I don't know who. Do suspensions carry over to the cup? Like if someone gets suspended in this game?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No,
I never remember. I feel like it happens some years and some years it doesn't. Yeah, I think you bring in Chow, but I don't think we see like wholesale changes. Maybe you see Tammy up top. Maybe you see Santi. I don't know. And then I feel like Pulisic probably needs a rest at some point, right?
Yeah, I'd give him a rest as well. I'd see how Sotil and Bondo are because they only had discomfort. So if they're a little bit better, they probably both get a start. You know, you don't risk Fofana, you play Bondo instead, or you play RLC. I don't mind. I'd like to get Reinders a rest too, but I just don't think that's in his DNA, to be honest. I think he'll just play whenever he's available, and that's fine. And then, maybe Sotil, maybe Joao Felix, Gimenez up front. The one area we are very shallow is wing back. I don't think Kyle Walker is a wing back, so I don't see him starting there. It's only really Terracciano who could play that position, or Musa. And we just don't want to see that, do we, really? Because you can undo a lot of the momentum if we get stuffed in this game 4-0. You know, like when we played Napoli away from home before the Champions League quarter-final and we beat them 4-0, even though they were 20 points ahead of us in the league. It's like we can beat you, and we can beat you really well if we want. And then we won the tie. It's not exactly the same with this, but, you know, it's quite a distant comparison, but it does feel like this could send a message one way or the other, you know, especially if they give us a hiding. I was going to look at Bologna's form, sorry, as well. So they
decent form, a couple draws.
Yeah, they drew with Juve in the most recent game. Prior to that, they drew with Udinese. Prior to that was the second leg of the Coppa Italia. They beat Empoli 5-1 on aggregate. Beat Inter, lost to Bologna, drew with Napoli. They've been on a really good run this second half of the season generally, you know, to even get themselves into the top four consideration. Scored 53 goals in 35 games this season, let in 38. Won 16, drawn 14, lost 5. So they've lost. Only Juve and Napoli have lost less games than them this season, but they've had 14 draws, which is second most in the league. So that's where they've, you know, if they just turn one of those.
What about Inter? Have Inter lost more than Bologna?
Inter have lost 5.
Oh my God. How'd that happen? Wow.
Well, us, Roma, Bologna, Juve away, they lost. And there's obviously another one in there. But yeah, so there you go. They've only lost 5 games this season. But if you turn even one of those draws into a win, they're 2 points better off, and they are therefore in 4th and in the driving seat. I feel like Roma are going to get 4th spot, you know. They're just...
I can see it.
They're flying. They're flying.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely flying. And that would be some story, you know, with Ranieri. But the thing is, then they're going to change head coach again in the summer because he's moving upstairs. So it's like when they really wanted the continuity. Anyway, Bologna. I don't really care about the outcome of this game, just as long as it's not a heavy defeat. To be honest, I can see us losing because I think Bologna are a team with more to fight for, who are of at least level quality at the moment in terms of form, and I think the desire to win and to push the top 4 fight all the way will prevail over our resting of the troops ahead of what is our season-defining game next Wednesday. 2-1 to them, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a very, very cagey draw, you know, where both teams are like shitting it a bit. Because Bologna haven't won a major trophy in a long time as well. And they're 1 game away against a team that they'll feel like they can beat, given that they have beaten us already this season. So maybe they'll also kind of go into it with caution.
I think it might be a bit of a back and forth game. I'm going to go 2-2. They score first, we equalize. They score again, we equalize again. And I think it'll be one of those back and forth fun games unintentionally, because we're going to try to rotate. We're going to try and sit back, but they're going to push forward. They're going to attack. They're going to succeed. And then our players are going to say, hey, you're not getting the better of us. Like we got this. So, and I just feel like Conceição doesn't accept it. You know, he's going to bring on starters as soon as we go down. So, and I do worry about that, but yeah, I think 2-2 draw.
I hope it's as entertaining as that. Yeah, and then everything turns towards Rome. I'm actually going to the game next week. I know I mentioned it to you before we started recording, but was lucky enough to get a ticket. So looking forward to experiencing that one as a fan, which I don't really get to do too much when I go to games now. But yeah, fingers crossed for a good result on Friday. Let's do some questions, and this is also kind of a talking point. Hi Mats asks in the Discord, and you get in the Discord as part of Substack. When the hell are we deciding on a sporting director? The Mercato opens in 2 months. We need renewals done beforehand.
Yeah,
So,
good question.
yeah, we did a bonus pod on this a few weeks ago. Well, what was it? Maybe 2-3 weeks ago,
Something like
where we sort of went through the rumours and, you know, Paratici had vanished by this point, and then it was all about Iglitare, who we met, and then that kind of went quiet again, and then it's like we're going to try and persuade Tony D'Amico to join from Atalanta. Tony D'Amico, by the way, just won Sporting Director of the Year at the Grand Gala Awards last night. So, for those who think, who is this guy? You know, he can't be very good. Well, he's apparently the best director in Serie A. But Atalanta CEO Luca Percassi came out and said we're planning for the future with him. You know, we've no intentions of letting him go anywhere. So that's probably halted us a little bit. And now we've absolutely no idea who it's going to be. And this has dragged on. We're on the 6th of May now. It was meant to be done by the end of April. Now there's talk about it not being done until the end of the season. Is there even a chance that we remain unchanged?
No.
You don't think?
No, we'll
They've
hire
made too
someone.
big a deal of it in the media, haven't they? They've said too many times Moncada or Fellaini has come out and said, we are looking for this figure. So now, if they don't hire somebody, they've made a rod for their own back, I think.
Yeah, will it be one of the names that we've seen a million times? I don't know. Could get a crazy monkey wrench thrown at us, some random no-name guy from Pisa or something. I don't know, but I don't know. But I will definitely sign someone.
So my gut feeling at the moment, and this is mostly based on gut, because obviously we hear things through the job that we do, and I still think that head says that it's going to be Tare, because we will be patient and we'll wait for all those options that are currently under contract at other clubs. And then when one by one they pull out of the process because they're happy where they are and there's too many risks involved in jumping to us, we will turn back to Tare because he's without a club. And we've already had that dialogue with him. So he knows what to expect and we know what kind of director we're appointing. But what my heart says is that for us to have waited this long and to accept continuing to wait, we must have had reassuring signals from somebody. We must have. There's no way that you're not getting Tare in now if we haven't turned to D'Amico, Sartori at Bologna, Mana at Napoli, and one of them said, actually, yeah, leave it with me. You know, I kind of fancy that. I think there's probably no smoke without fire, and I think it maybe is D'Amico who has suggested that he'd be interested in it. He got asked about his future on stage at the awards thing last night, and he said, for now, I'm only thinking about the Roma game. So he didn't exactly say, yeah, I'm here for years to come. So I know he's got to be coy and all that kind of stuff. He's under contract till 2027. I just wonder, because things are generally on good terms between us and Atalanta. You see the CDK deal where I think we'll be reminding them they got a bit of a bargain in the end.
Yeah.
You know, I just wonder if we've had a little signal from him, or if it might be someone that comes back into fashion again, like Sartori. You know, he was supposedly number one target and then renewed his contract earlier in the season, and now things have gone quiet on him again. Might it all come roaring back? We do the Sartori Italiano double lift. That'd be interesting. But yeah, man, everyone else is as wise as we are, really.
Yeah,
Maybe.
we don't know anything.
Maybe silence is golden in this case. Maybe. Because, for example, Fellaini and Ibra were not at the game last night, and the very vague reason given was for pre-arranged commitments. It feels weird for them both to not be there. You know, what was something going on? I don't know. But funnily enough, Sartori was at the game last night, though probably to scout on behalf of Bologna, given the games coming up. But yeah, it's a wait and see in that case, and we hope for news soon because time is money, and we have got to start preparing for next season. Looking on the Twitter here, Gregory Peck, do you think we should have developed Teo as a wing back earlier, like Bale? Would have given us so many interesting options, putting him on the left, maybe pushing Leao more central. He actually says winger, play him as a winger, but I quite like him in this new wing back role. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I don't think you play him as a winger. We've discussed it over the years on this podcast about moving to a winger and use the Bale example multiple times. But
yeah, you did actually. A lot.
Yeah, and I wasn't the only one. It was just,
no.
Look, he's fast. He likes to score. He gets forward. Why not? but you're not going to start him as a winger over Leao. So wing back, he's working just fine. And look, he played basically a wing back anyways. And when he started with us, regardless of the fact that he technically wasn't, he was playing like one.
I think that what we're witnessing is the latest evolution of that left side, if you like, because for near enough 4 seasons, the Teao couple, as they called it, the left back and left winger, they were inseparable in those two positions, and we saw the chemistry that they formed. We saw the amount of times that they combined for goals. When they were both in form, they were pretty much unstoppable, as the Scudetto run and as that deep Champions League run proved. But then something seemed to kind of break in the mechanics, and only the coaches and probably the players themselves will know what went wrong. But I think it was sort of both of them having a dip in form at the same time. And then when they're not producing as much at one end, there's a lot more scrutiny dialed up on them to do stuff on the defensive end. And we know Leao doesn't have the work rate to track back constantly. And we know that Teo has been suspect defensively in one-on-one situations. So when they ain't getting the goals and assists, all the problems are just magnified. And I think that that's what's happened. And now what we're seeing is what I've personally been calling out for a long time in the 3-man defence. And I think that we have got 2 natural wing-backs in the team here in Teo and Gimenez, and I would like to see them go through to the end of the season. I don't think Teo has skyrocketed in form. I think there's still things that haven't been good, but he's certainly looked better. He's looked more comfortable. I think having the cover of someone like Pavlovic behind him has been beneficial, even though he is I'd almost like to see him with a more composed left-sided centre-back, who still guarantees the coverage, but perhaps doesn't, because Teo must at times look over his shoulder and see Pavlovic darting into midfield and think, fuck, what's going on here? Like, the amount that he strides out with the ball and stuff. So what would happen if you put like a Gabriel-esque defender on that left side? I don't know. But for now, it seems to be working okay. And then Leao, because he's pushed up one position as well, has less defensive duties to do. I think it just looks a lot better at the moment. But in response to the idea of Teo playing as a winger, I think he's too physically well built to be wasted playing naturally as a winger. Like, I think his stockiness, his size are useful in the defensive end of the game. I don't think he's ever going to be. In fact, he could potentially be one of the worst one-on-one defenders, to be honest, that we've seen in recent years. He has worked on that side of his game a little bit, but I still think that he makes too many mistakes. And, you saw Norton Cuffy last night, for example, just get past him with ease. So it's never going to be his thing. He's never going to be a lockdown fullback. But I do still think that, his size is pretty important. And that's why wing back could be the perfect blend of the two. And I hope he continues there. And I hope that the upturn in form continues to the extent that a renewal becomes a no-brainer, because I would hate to go into the summer not knowing, which of the pillars of the squad are still going to be around, in addition to not knowing the sporting director, in addition to not knowing the head coach and therefore the formation that we're going to play and all that stuff. I just think it's in everyone's best interest we end this season well with this formation. That probably guides the choice of the head coach a little bit, and you've got a lot more round pegs in round holes, which is something to build on rather than this guessing game. We don't have any more questions. That's it. We're on 48 minutes. I could rack further back in the Discord chat.
Madison asked one in the group chat, didn't he?
Oh, shit. Yeah, sorry, Maddie. He did. And I'm going to ask this now. Question for the pod. Is this from him? Do you think?
I don't know.
Or did you get a DM? If you ask this, let us know. Making 100 appearances for the club used to mean something. Reinders just hit 100 after 1.8 seasons. What is the new milestone to mean something? Good that he asked that, because I forgot to mention the Reinders milestone.
It is a good question. I mean, I don't think the milestone's any less valuable. Like 100 games is still 100 games, but it is crazy to think that it can happen in under 2 seasons. If anything, it's more of an indictment on the state of football, right? But I do see, I don't know what becomes, I mean, I don't know. What does become the milestone? Is it 200, 250?
So I think what we're discussing here is the devaluation of one game of football. because they're playing 50 plus per season now constantly, you don't even need 2 seasons of regular playing time to hit 100 appearances. And I think that's what Maddie's alluding to with the question. And that's a shame. You know, I've been vocal before about how I think football's getting devalued as a product. The players are being asked too much of, and it's worsening the product and all that stuff. But in terms of the purity of the question itself, I think, as you say, to reach 3 figures in appearances is still something very notable. And it's something that, you know, only few players in each sort of round of squads, if you know what I mean, will reach that, because there's naturally quite high player turnover nowadays. And nobody would look at Reinders making 100 appearances and think, how's he done that? You know, it's well earned. He's one of our most important players. That's why he's done it in 1.8 seasons, as Maddie says. But does that then shift back what like a big landmark is? I mean, I guess 500 games, you're talking about elite, right? You're talking about almost club legend status guaranteed for 500 games, because that's still going to be around 10 seasons.
Yeah.
At 50 per season, or maybe a little bit less. So that I think is still too far away to what did he say? To be considered a milestone that means something. 200, then you've probably done nearly half a decade, haven't you? You're sort of getting into the Leao and Teo territory, I'd say, of doing 200, 250. I think then, if you get a quarter century, then you've almost certainly been here 5 seasons. And then you're like very memorable as a player.
To look at it, because from this team, you look at the Leao and the Teos and say, these are the guys that are like Milan through and through, you know, in terms of appearances, I guess. Whereas like Reinders, while at 100, in my head is still a new player. You know?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he only joined the summer before last. So it's not like we've had years to get used to him. Whereas Teo and Leao had done half a decade as of 2024. You know, they joined.
How many games did Tonali have with us? I feel like he's getting passed by a lot of these new players already, too.
Yeah, and the thing with Tonali is he didn't have like that first season, he wasn't a guaranteed starter either. So it's not like he's just
in any of the seasons, you know, he was rotated.
I just looking, and Pulisic is on 96, so he will be the next to hit 100. And if he plays every game, he will. So he should do it. Tonali got 130 for us, 130.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, so he did 3 seasons, didn't he? So that adds up. Yeah, I'll stick with 250. I think 250 is probably the new 100 or whatever you want to say. Yeah, I don't know. Will anyone in this current squad get to 500?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so. The way football goes now, teams got to have higher turnover than that. 500 is a lot. I mean, that's a decade, right? That's of playing 50 games a year.
Yeah, being injury free near enough.
Yeah.
You know, it might take you 11, 12.
How many players do we have over 500? 2?
No, probably be a few more than that. There'll be probably Sebastiano Rossi, Maldini, Costa Curta, Baresi, Tassotti. Yeah, there'll be quite a few, but obviously have a look. But yeah, I just think that like it's to do with the volume of games, right? You know, so whereas getting to 500 in the 90s because there weren't anywhere near as many games might have been way more significant than it might be to do it in this era.
5.
Doesn't make it 5 of them.
There's some close ones, but Maldini is obviously the most, 901. Yeah. Baresi 716, Costa Curta 663, Gianni Rivera 654, and then Tassotti 581. Then Ambrosini 6 with 488.
Ooh, he came close. He should have just kept going for another year.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we gave him the opportunity.
Yeah, probably not. Where was Gattuso?
Right underneath him in 7th at 468. And then Sador 432.
Because you think about a lot of those legendary strikers, for example, or you think of like Gullit, Rijkaard, Van Basten, all those we signed from Holland, and all of them sort of left in their late 20s. And then you think about Inzaghi. You know, he had a a high peak, but a short peak. Shevchenko left us for Chelsea. Kaká left us for Real Madrid. Like all these players, they wouldn't have got anywhere near it. So I think with 500
Shevchenko's the
appearances,
highest of the ones you just named, and he was in 25th at 322 appearances.
Yeah, so there you go. I think all these names are sort of like, if you hit 500 appearances, then you are legend status because it means that you basically stayed for your entire career near enough. So, yeah. I thought Donnarumma could surpass the record when he first came through. You know, I think he potentially had Maldini's record in his sights because started at 16 and as a goalkeeper you can go older, but he no longer exists.
Guess which active player has the most appearances and which current player has the most appearances.
Active player, as in
someone who's played for Milan, still plays but isn't there anymore.
Probably Calabria.
Yeah,
272. And current in the current squad. Well, it's going to be Leao or Teo, isn't it?
They're very close. Those two are two appearances apart.
Teo, because Leao had that first half of the season when he first arrived, didn't start that much.
Yeah, Teo's at 260, so he's behind Calabria. And then Leao is at 258.
When Calabria re-signs on a free in the summer, mate.
Or Donnarumma. Donnarumma's only 6 games behind Leao.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Good way to end it, I think. Up the legends. We're back later this week for a bonus pod. Don't know what we'll do for that. Maybe, I don't know, to do a little Coppa Italia special, throwback. Why it's been so long since we last won it, that kind of thing. But we'll see. And then obviously back early next week for a recap of Bologna Part 1 and a preview of Bologna Part 2. In the meantime, I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
See you guys.
Have a good week, everyone.